You call it an emotion. You call it a survival instinct, a biochemical reflex, a sudden spike of cortisol that forces your muscles to contract. When the shadows shift in the hall, you are mistaken. Fear is not a reaction to the world. Fear is the lens through which the world is constructed. If you could strip away the fear operating silently beneath your cellular memory, the familiar objects of your life, theirs, the floor, the identity you guard, the very concept of you would not become peaceful. They would evaporate. We are taught to treat fear as an intruder, a foreign noise disrupting the quiet house of the mind. But the house was built by the noise. Every boundary you draw around your life, every defense you raise against the future, every name you give to your safety and your danger, is just a shadow cast by a singular, unnameable baseline condition. We are going to look past the physical symptoms. We are not interested in the racing pulse or the dry mouth. We are going to look at what fear is when it has no object. When there is no predator in the grass, no failure in the forecast, no threat at the door, and the machinery inside your skull continues to hum. What is it actually tracking? The answer is not psychological. It is structural, and it has nothing to do with saving your life. To find the root, we have to look at the geometry of consciousness itself. Before a mind learns to say I, there is only the field. There is the data of the universe moving through itself, without a center, without a barrier, without a name. A rock does not fear the river. It is part of the river's bed. An animal in the wild moves with the rhythm of the forest until the precise moment of impact. Then comes the glitch, the split. Consciousness folds inward and carves out a tiny, isolated enclosure. It isolates a fragment of the universal flow and stamps it with a pronoun. It says, "This is inside. Everything else is outside." And the exact microsecond that division occurs, fear is born. Fear is not the dread of a specific disaster. Fear is the chronic, structural panic of the fragment. It is the mathematical awareness of the boundary. The moment you decide you are a separate, enclosed point in an infinite, indifferent universe, you have inherited an impossible debt. You are a finite thing trying to survive in infinite space. The mechanism behind every terror you will ever feel, from the humiliation of a social slip to the absolute terror of the grave, is the friction of that separation. It is the enclosed drop of water constantly terrified that the ocean will notice it is no longer separate. You think you are afraid of the dark, or failure, or loneliness. Those are just localized decoys. Underneath them all is the primary, quiet hum of the fracture, the terror of being a distinct, fragile point of view in a cosmos that does not require a point of view to function. Because this baseline panic is unresolvable. Because you cannot fix the fact that you feel separate from everything else. The brain has to go to work. It cannot sit in the pure, abstract dread of the fracture all day. It would grind to a halt. So, it invents a proxy. It takes the formless, unmanageable terror of existence and looks for something to hang it on. It scans the environment for a face, a bill, a diagnosis, a slight, a memory, a shadow on the wall. It says, "Aha, that is why we are shaking." It is not because we are finite and the universe is vast. It is because of that specific thing over there. Fear is an industry of localization. It converts an ontological condition into a tactical problem. It is infinitely easier for the human mind to manage 100 small, specific enemies than to sit with the quiet, crushing realization of its own groundless state. We prefer the agony of a concrete threat to the vertigo of the unanchored self. This is why the algorithm never rests. If you solve the tactical problem, if you pay the bill, win the argument, secure the perimeter, achieve the status, the counter keeps spinning. The mind feels the foundational pressure of the split, panics at the emptiness, and immediately manufactures a new ghost to chase. You are not bracing against the world. You are bracing against the baseline. Realization that your security is painted on the air. The clicking of the counter is just the mechanism working overtime, keeping you safely distracted from the fact that there is nothing actually outside the door. What happens when the machinery of localization stalls? When the mind stops finding valid targets for its panic, and the manufactured threats run dry? There is no transformation, no sudden peace, no revelation that makes the world look bright. Behind fear, there is simply the field again, the unpartitioned space that was there before the pronoun was invented. The boundary was never a real wall. It was just an intense, localized contraction of awareness, holding its breath in the dark. The perimeter does not need to be defended. It simply stops being maintained. The hum of the mechanism may still twitch in the background, reaching for a name, a fear, a shape to anchor itself to. But the hooks are bare. The space is unpeopled. The line between inside and outside blurs. And the point of view remembers, very quietly, that it was never a point at all. Then perhaps the question was never, how do I overcome fear? Perhaps the real question has always been, who is it that needs protection? Not the body. The body has always belonged to time, not the mind. Every thought that once defined you has already disappeared. Not even the personality. It changes so slowly that you mistake its movement for permanence. So what exactly has spent an entire lifetime defending itself? Stay with that question long enough, and something unusual begins to happen. The one searching for the answer starts to feel less solid. The border between the observer and the observed becomes difficult to locate. The center you call me begins to look less like an object, and more like a habit. Maybe that is why silence can feel so unsettling. Not because it contains nothing, but because it slowly reveals that the one demanding certainty was never as permanent as it believed. And if that is true, then fear was never the deepest illusion. The deepest illusion was believing there had to be someone at the center to own it. So the next time fear appears, do not ask what it is trying to tell you. Ask a stranger question, without the story I keep repeating about myself. Who is left to be afraid? Do not answer too quickly. Some questions are not meant to be solved. They are meant to quietly dissolve the one who asked them. If this video gave you something to think about, take a moment to leave a like. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoy exploring ideas like this, subscribe and join us for the next journey.